Okay, so we're looking at the Diving and Health lesson plan of the Subsea channel teaching materials. And the first activity is looking at our body and the different organs that we have in our body. What you can do is if you can get a big sheet of wallpaper and get pupils to draw around themselves and then place the different organs or draw the different organs inside. Obviously, depending on the level that you're teaching, you might want to give them more help and give them the names of the organs, or you can let them do it all themselves. And then have a discussion about which organs would be very important for divers. Obviously, one very important organ for divers is your lungs. We've talked about the changes in pressure in the previous video. So there's a really simple way that you can make your own working lung that works exactly like our own lung does. And this is a little model of it. So what I've done, I've taken a bottle, I've cut the bottom off and tied a balloon around it. And then inside I've got a straw with a balloon attached to it with an elastic band. And then I've sealed the chamber with some plasticine or blue tack. And now we have a working lung. So the lung cavity is all closed off and we can see what happens. So in our own body we have our diaphragm, which is the pink balloon here, and when we want to breathe in, we open up our lung cavity and pull our diaphragm down. So when I do that, you can see as I pull the diaphragm down, air is being pulled in via the air pipe and your lung is filling up. When you release the diaphragm, the air is pushed out again. So this is exactly how your own lung works. When you open up the diaphragm, you create space in your air cavity, air gets pulled in. When you release it, air gets pushed out again. So this is a very nice, simple model that you can use to explain how the lung works. So we'll move on then to the next activity, which is all about the air that we breathe. I've got a candle here which is representing our body. Just like our bodies, the candle needs oxygen to stay alive, to breathe. So I'll light my candle. So at the moment, the candle is using up the oxygen around us, and this activity is just really showing what happens if we block off that oxygen. So if we put a glass around it, there's obviously some air in here, some oxygen in there. If we look at our candle, we should see what happens. Eventually, the candle will run out of oxygen. We'll have used up all the oxygen in the glass and the candle goes off. Same thing happens obviously to our bodies. If we don't have any oxygen, we won't be able to breathe anymore. You can change this as a very simple activity, and you can change it into an investigation. If you have glasses of different sizes, you could time how long it takes before the candle goes out. And obviously this kind of emphasizes to pupils that, yeah, the bigger the cup, the more oxygen is there, the longer the candle will stay on. It's just a very simple activity to illustrate that. And if you want, what you can do is if you put some water on your plate, and do the same thing, we can actually show that in the air around us, there's about 20% of the air is made out of oxygen. So as the candle is using up all the oxygen in the air, at some point it creates a vacuum because it's trying to fill up that space again, and it will suck in the water from the bottom. So this is quite a cool experiment that you can show to your kids. Okay, so the next activity is all about the diving bells that they used to use for diving. And here they would take a big diving bell over their head and go on the water. So we can mimic this with a little beaker, put a bit of tissue in, make sure the tissue is big enough to stay in, put it upside down and push it on the water. So my diving bell is all the way on the water now. I'll take it back out. And as you can see, my tissue will come out dry. So what happens is the air gets trapped inside the diving bell, and you can then look around and dive. In the olden days there were quite a few accidents, because obviously, thinking back to our experiment with the candle, there's only a limited amount of oxygen inside your diving bell. When that runs out, your light goes out, just like the candle did. So that's another little experiment you can try with your pupils. And then finally, in the lesson plan, there's also an activity looking at how pressure affects your lungs. You could use just balloons to try this out with your pupils. And what you get them to do is just get them to blow up a balloon in different situations. So just try and get them to blow up the balloon sitting down, maybe lying down on the floor, put the balloon between two books and try and blow it up. It will just show them that what it feels like for your lungs to be under pressure. One other thing you can do as well is to hold the balloon underwater and try and blow up the balloon while it's on the water, and it will experience how hard it is when there's pressure pushing on your lungs to try and breathe. That's another activity that you can try with your pupils. So as I mentioned before, all these lesson materials are freely available on the Subsea channel website, and we'll see you again for the next topic.